Hello, it's Ted Bradshaw. This video is about some different types of anxiety. It can be useful to have a think about this because it can help you find the right kind of support, but also when you come for therapy, it's one of the first things we're looking for because we do slightly different things with each one. The place we're going to start is with generalized anxiety. So this picture is supposed to show somebody worrying about lots of different things. It's probably the most common type of anxiety that we work with. It's also one of the least well known. Somebody with generalised anxiety will describe it as not being able to stop thinking about things, or they'll say, I overthink everything, that kind of stuff. It's typified by just not being able to stop yourself going over and over things. You might describe it as seemingly small things at the time. Social anxiety. This one, might not be a surprise, is about social situations. So worrying about how you're coming across, worrying about how perhaps people don't like you. Typically you'll be avoiding public speaking or putting yourself in front of other people. It might be about feeling very self-conscious about a particular aspect of yourself, or worried about coming across as boring perhaps. Health anxiety. This is about worrying about your health. Typically, this is about worrying about getting something which will eventually kill you. So it tends to be worrying about long-term illnesses, or worrying about getting more and more ill. So the process of becoming really ill. It's a really scary thing to think about for everybody. Health anxiety typically centres mostly around that, and there's not that much other anxiety going on about other things as well. Let's compare this to panic. We've put panic and agoraphobia on the same one here, and we're going to come around to that in a moment. Let's start with panic on its own. So compared to health anxiety, if health anxiety is about worrying about getting an illness which will eventually see you off, panic is about feeling like it's happening now. So panic disorder is about worrying that perhaps you're going to have a heart attack or some other major thing that will happen which will kill you immediately, which is really scary because the moment you get anxious about that, your heart starts beating really fast and you feel like you can't breathe. So panic is typified by that. So you might find yourself checking your heart rate a lot, trying not to do exercise, things like that. Panic usually comes with or without agoraphobia. Agoraphobia, again, is one of those terms that's really misunderstood. It's often thought of as a fear of open spaces, which isn't right. Agoraphobia actually is much better described as fear of crowds, actually. Somebody who's experiencing panic with agoraphobia is likely to want to avoid queues, crowds, buses, trains, planes, anywhere where they feel they can't get out, because they'll trigger those symptoms of panic for them, and either they'll feel like something terrible is about to happen, or they're just really worried that it's going to be really embarrassing, that they're going to faint or they're going to have to run out of this queue at any point. OCD. OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, is the idea that something pops into your mind, and the obsession part is that you can't get it out of your mind, and then the compulsion part is that you feel that you have to do something about it. Sometimes those behaviours are really obvious, so it might be checking things, or it might be counting things, whatever it might be. Sometimes they're less obvious. Sometimes it's things you find yourself doing in your head, so either counteracting a particular thought, or having to say something to yourself in your mind a certain way, whatever it might be. When you start to develop it, it can feel really alarming, but it's surprisingly common. PTSD. PTSD I'm going to put under this kind of category of an anxiety issue, in that you usually feel really anxious. PTSD, again, is one of those things that's very misunderstood. Post-traumatic stress disorder is typified or characterised by feeling like you are back at a moment. So if something happened that was really terrifying, that perhaps you thought you were going to lose your life, whatever it might be, that's the main thing. Every time you're reminded of it, you feel like you're back there, or the feelings are so overwhelming that it feels like it's happening now. That's the main characterization of PTSD, is that it feels like it's happening now. There's all sorts of ways in which people experience this, and that's a very brief explanation, and it's the same for all of these things. But I hope it's a useful starting point just to get you thinking about what might be going on for you.